Alright guys, today we are gonna be reacting to stunning images inside Russian grocery store show dire situation. And listen, this is what I was talking about in the last episode, how the Western media portray Russian supermarket, how Russian are supposed to be, you know, surviving these supposedly sanctions. This is how they see this is a bunch of propaganda, that's what it is. Don't dislike my video, I'm just saying this is what they're showing. Let's jump in.
A stunning image coming out of a Russian grocery store. Anti-theft tags seen on the lids of canned beef and pork. And we can't independently verify exactly when and where the photos were taken, but they seem to be yet another example of how the West sanctions are impacting ordinary Russians. And it comes as the Biden administration says Russia's economy is plunging into recession and getting crushed by crippling inflation. Matthew Chance is out front.
In Russia, they're calling it the sugar panic. As Western sanctions on the country bite, ordinary people have been snapping up essentials, here jostling with each other in the Russian city of Saratov to buy sugar off the back of a truck. God bless you, the voice says, as a supermarket worker pushes a trolley of sugar towards anxious shoppers. They scramble to grab as much as they can before supplies run out. Pleas from Russian officials for the public not to panic buy are going unheard. And now a prominent Russian economist tells CNN this economic pain is set to deepen.
You know, we're seeing these shortages now, and that's bad enough for some people in Russia. But what you're saying is that soon we could see a much bigger, much more serious economic impact because of these sanctions.
Yes, the shortages, it's a temporary, most of the shortages, it's a temporary problem.
So this is what supposedly CNN is saying, you know, the sanctions they just kicked in. And first of all, just to let you know, guys, CNN is one of the worst outlets in the United States. They're like only 15% of Americans trust this news network. So bad that it doesn't even go above 10% of trustworthy. They're so bad. But this is what they're saying. No, there's no food, there's no sugar. They cannot produce sugar.
So that will be solved, like these goods will appear. So it's really acute phase and then everything is fine. With the quality of life, like actually real income, that is not that apparent yet, but this problem will be accumulating and becoming more and more apparent in the coming months.
In fact, that impact on quality of life is already being felt. These are the crowds that flocked to an IKEA superstore in Moscow the day before it closed down last month. Across Russia, Western brands have suspended production or simply pulled out over the invasion of Ukraine. Jobs may soon go permanently. Even more seriously, there are concerns a shortage of Western medicines is starting to have a real impact on people's health. People like Anastasia in Moscow and her father, who she says has been diagnosed with a brain aneurysm.
Damn.
We asked everywhere, but no one had his medicine, she says. Now he feels sick. Russian officials say they're aware of the shortages and are trying to address them. But if sanctions persist, Russia faces being cut off.
Yo, this is
from
so
medical
propaganda,
advances.
man. Probably that product was, you know, finished, and then they had to restock. This is so dumb, man. Like, you can literally just go to a local supermarket here in the United States. You will probably see an aisle empty. This is talk about propaganda, man. This is crazy.
And other technologies that may set it back, even cause harm. But many Russians accustomed to hardship remain unshaken by the economic doom threatening their nation. I was born in Soviet times, says Larissa in the Russian town of Pokrov. She then speaks of the challenges since then, like economic restructuring and food stamps. We got over it all, she says. Valentina, also in Pokrov, says she doesn't mind that prices have gone up at all. In a month it will all straighten out, she hopes. After years of navigating Western sanctions, there's a belief, perhaps misplaced, things will work out this time too.
when Russians are saying this, I mean, yes, ecologically they are used to sanctions, but in terms of the effect on economy, it is much more damaging than the sanctions that were previously implemented.
Well, I mean, previously as well, the sanctions haven't really worked in terms of changing Russia's policy, changing the Kremlin's policy. Do you think there's a chance that these sanctions in that case will work and they will force the Kremlin to change course?
Honestly, I doubt that.
Exactly.
Exactly. Just with the logic.
Exactly, because you're forcing a country to submit, and this did not work in World War One, post World War One. It didn't work. Germany became crazy, man. I mean, people think that just hammering a country like this doesn't work, man. Because then you're trying to destroy a pride sentiment in that country. It's stupid.
Of the current regime in Russia. It's a thing about Putin that he doesn't give up under pressure. It's like makes him even more persistent at the expense of the country.
Economic pain, it seems, is a price the Kremlin is willing to let its own people pay.
That's crazy, man.
Well, Aaron, the Kremlin is trying to strike back to prevent its economy from imploding. For instance, by forcing what
propaganda.
It calls unfriendly countries
But a bunch of actors, that's what they are.
To pay for its Russian gas deliveries in Russian rubles instead of dollars or euros. That's something that's been rejected by Western countries. And with that war continuing to rage in Ukraine, the scene is set for yet more sanctions and more economic pain. Aaron.
All right. Thank you very much, Matthew.
Okay. And you know what's crazy? The good thing is a lot of people in the comment section are calling them out. You have a bunch of Russian users just really calling them out. Okay. I went to the store, really all the shelves and the cabinet were empty. No cereal, no milk, no sugar. He made a scandal, kicked me out, said that it was a furniture factory. Yeah, good point. Good point. Good point. IKEA. Hello. I'm from Russia. We are starving. There's no sugar. There's no bread. Butter has to be smeared directly on the sausage. This is crazy. People are literally trolling them, guys. And they're like, and the good thing is a lot of Americans, a lot of foreigners that have gone there. There's nothing there. It's just propaganda, right? And this was 3 years ago, right? And this was 1 year ago. Let's jump in.
Image of economic stability in Russia, but it's proving difficult.
Yeah, joining us now is Claire Sebastian. You've been looking into this.
Yeah, so obviously inflation is a problem in Russia. We've seen it accelerating since the summer at the same time as the rest of the world has seen it coming down. So this is obviously unique to Russia. It's directly linked to the war, which we'll go into in a minute. But I think what is more important about this is that it's not just about a gradual rise in overall prices. But what we're seeing is that certain supermarket staples, and in particular we're looking at eggs, have gone up dramatically. It's something like 60% over a year. It was almost 20% between November and December. That increases the likelihood that people are A, going to notice it, and B, going to start to make the connection between their grocery baskets and the war. And what we're seeing is that is a situation that the Kremlin has not been able to ignore. Take a look.
When your husband spoils you with expensive presents, reads the caption. Russian social media brimming with egg memes. Making light of a new feature of Russia's upside-down war economy. Sudden and unexpected price rises. Drive an hour outside Moscow, though, and it's no laughing matter for these pensioners. Of course we notice it. The pension is 13,000 rubles, says Lyubov. That's less than $150 per month. Maybe we buy less meat.
What a liar. She's such a liar. 13,000 rubles? Like, I don't even know how this is even true, guys. Like, I don't know, man. That sounds propagandish.
Nadezhda, there's still enough for medicines. Egg prices rose 18% in December alone.
18%, bro. How much it costs? We saw a guy say that he has a family of 6 or something, and with $200, they said enough for them for doing groceries.
Official data shows more than 60% over the year. far outstripping overall inflation at 7.4%. As images spread of lines forming outside supermarkets, this purportedly from Belgorod in December, Russia's president forced into damage control mode.
I am sorry about this and want to apologize for this problem. This is a setback in the government's work. Although they say this is not the case, I still think it is. The problem is related to a failure to increase imports enough.
The government took the not-so-subtle hint. Eggs were exempted from import duties for 6 months, and shipments started arriving from Turkey, Azerbaijan, and staunch ally Belarus also ramping up supplies. Its president unable to resist a rare dig.
Our own production covers our needs in terms of grain, pork, chicken, milk, vegetable oils, and chicken eggs.
Send some to us. Don't be greedy.
In Putin's surprisingly resilient war economy, the egg crisis reveals the biggest problem is not decline, but overheating. Putin says this is about higher demand because of slightly higher wages. Partly true, economists say, but what Putin doesn't say is why wages are up.
This labour shortage is a huge issue, right? Where does that come from?
Mobilization. I think to me the key issue here is the fact that there are a lot of deaths at war, and then they have to be replaced. These people have to be replaced. You know, the Russian officials trying to keep it very quiet, the numbers of how many people have died.
You know what's crazy? I believe nothing that CNN says, guys. Nothing. Even what they say right now, I can see. I just don't see it. I just don't. Guys, the price of eggs were high here in the United States as well. It was almost $6 per dozen. Now it's only $2 because inflation came down. It's all about inflation, guys. It came out. Now it's $1.99. Right? So it almost been like a 400% down or something like that. It went down quick. But it's inflation, guys. And also, I think Biden just wanted to just delete 150 million chickens in the United States for some reason. And we have to stop that because the price of, I don't know why. But the prices of eggs were going up everywhere.
A direct result of sanctions has also pushed up import costs for poultry producers. And then there's the wartime spending.
The budget for 2024 envisages, even adjusted for inflation, record levels of federal government expenditure. So when you put that alongside a supply side tightness with a massive increase in demand driven by the state, you've got a recipe for inflation.
President Putin now poised for the next price spike, a threat to his image of stability ahead of March elections, though likely not his presidential shelf life.
So it's not exactly a crisis for Putin yet, but it is something that we are
there we go.
To see this.
There's not a crash yet, but then you guys literally started saying that there was a crisis, Putin, eggs, hey, but by the way, but there's not a crisis yet. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? These people are dishonest as hell, man.
Sort of whack-a-mole situation where the Kremlin has to deal with these pockets.
They have a hard time even telling facts without their damn opinion.
Heating as they happen. Now, obviously what this shows us deep down, especially if you look at the Russian budget for this year, is that they are putting the war first and the people are going to have to keep paying the price. Defense spending, according to projections for this year, will be triple what it was before the war. They're paying more to service their debt, which they didn't even have really before the war, than they are on healthcare and education. Interest rates are back up at some 16%, which is close to the peak that we saw at the start of the war. So people are increasingly paying for this. And I think the question is, how many people, when people start to make the connection between this and the war, especially as we're starting to see the seeds of that already, some sort of pockets of anti-war sentiment rising, and I think this is where
I think these people are ready for this. I mean, these people, they just see the war through the lens of the Western, especially the CNN, the MSNBC people. I have no problem with a lot of people having disagreement, saying, Russia is losing, or Ukraine is losing, or Russia is winning, Ukraine is winning. I have no problem with that when they state it. But when there's this type of propaganda behind it, I have zero respect. Zero respect. As simple as that. It seems like people are just running, whatever. You never know where this video was taken off. Like, you don't even know what was the reason. They just show a video of people running. One of the carts was sugar, I guess. I don't even know. That don't even look like sugar. I don't know. It could be dust, powder. cement. I don't know. But somehow we have to believe them. Let me know what you guys think, guys. I would love to hear you guys' opinion. I will see you in the next one.